Very good evening and welcome to CBC Business Outlook. We're glad you could join us today. I'm your host, Jimmy KANASHA, and as you can see, we have a face, he's no stranger to this platform anymore. It is none other than Dr. John Kunda, and I hope I pronounced it right.
Absolutely,
I love to pronounce names right.
No, that's correct.
Yes, indeed. He's the I believe Senior Manager in Corporate Affairs for Zesco. If you want to know what Zesco stands for, I'm sure he'll be able to explain to us as well. And we're discussing a serious issue, and that is an important aspect in any business, and that is a relationship. And today we're talking the relationship between CEC and Zesco. You know, it hasn't gone, we're not saying it's gone sour, but, you know, we need to... There's
a bit sour.
Just a little bit, yes. So we're looking at the situation. What are some of the effects that can actually accrue from this? But before we discuss with Dr. Kunda here, we have a short picture to show you, and we'll get back after this. Have a look at this.
The power supply agreement between CEC and KCM came to an end on 31st March 2020 and was extended through mutual agreement until 31st May 2020. CEC said KCM owes it $132 million in debt. In a statement issued by CEC, negotiations for its further extension have broken down, despite CEC's best efforts in good faith towards securing a new contract, the statement said. Without a renewed contract in place, therefore, CEC cannot continue supplying power to KCM, as doing so would jeopardize the company's financial position and endanger its efforts to provide essential power supply to its other customers. CEC therefore informed KCM that its supply will be discontinued on 31 May, after making clear throughout the negotiations that this would be the only option available should they fail to engage constructively in the negotiations and in resolving their substantial debt. However, in order to ensure that KCM continued operations, Energy Minister Mr. Nkua issued a statutory instrument on Friday declaring the CEC lines a common carrier. CEC is therefore obliged to transport the power from Zesco to KCM at a fee. Government has therefore declared Copperbelt Energy Corporation transmission and distribution lines as common carrier of electricity. This means that government can, through Zesco, use CEC lines when and as they wish without asking for permission from CEC, but at a fee to be determined by the Energy Regulation Board. For CBC Business News, I'm Niza Simfuko.
There we have it. Storytelling, a little bit of what is going on in the background. And definitely, that's why we have Dr. Kunda here to help us iron out this situation.
Yes.
And if somebody from CEC is watching, please let your bosses know we're talking about you right now. But definitely, Doc.
Yes.
Let's start with the issue of the contract. How far is it gone? And the negotiations?
So the contract expired on the 31st of March.
After 23 years?
After 23 years. And we haven't renewed that contract because it's a contract that we believe that should be renewed on terms that are commercially beneficial to both parties. And we are still in a stalemate.
Okay.
And it would be good that we continue the conversation to be able to come to some form of agreement, an agreement that is mutually beneficial. So I should make it clear. Zesco is not interested in getting CEC. Zesco is not interested in replacing CEC or killing CEC. That is not our interest. The interest of Zesco is to have commercially viable relationship with CEC. And what do I mean? You know, it's there have been so many stories peddled in the public domain. No, Zesco wants to suffocate CEC. No, Zesco wants to kill CEC and all that. That is totally not true. Our intention is that we had this agreement for 23 years and we never defaulted. We gave CEC power
So
for 23 years.
So why the confusion? Is it because of KCM? Or?
No.
What's the confusion?
And that's what I want to explain. You know, we gave CEC power.
Yes.
And they did not know load shedding. Yeah. So we are a very consistent client. Providing power for 23 years without defaulting is pretty much a good record. On average, about 400 megawatts of power.
And that is a lot of supply.
Consistent supply. Now, Zesco came to a point where, because the BSA, the bulk supply agreement, was low, we couldn't jump out of it. We were stuck with it for 23 years, right?
23 years.
So it was renegotiated at some point. There were discussions that were had, but there were certain fundamental provisions of that contract that we strongly felt we are not in favor of Zesco. So we felt the need to renegotiate those. So when the contract came to a natural end, Zesco says, oh guys, before this contract expires, let us sit and renegotiate the terms so that we see how we forge a new relationship moving forward.
Interesting.
That's what we did. So one of the things we were looking for, my bro, is, you know that CEC was the only company that was allowed or permitted by law to supply the copper belt. No one else. So even if Zesco had interest or the infrastructure to supply on the copper belt or any of the clients around the copper, whatever is defined as the copper belt, we needed the permission of CEC.
So we believe, just like you say, they've had the strength to supply the copper belt, and that includes the mining companies.
Yes,
there.
but not the residential clients.
Okay.
They gave up the residential clients at some point and handed them over back to government, who handed them over to Zesco Limited.
Yes.
Because residential customers are not as beneficial. It's costly to run beneficial clients. So they would prefer remain with the mines, and then everyone else or Zesco could deal with the distribution side. We had to rework the infrastructure in order to be able to distribute power to the customers. So they are the only ones who had the exclusive right to supply the copper belt. What we were asking for is the removal of that exclusivity. We said it must be open, competitive space, so that if we needed to get a client on the copper belt, we could. We tried to go to Kansenshi, where we thought we had a transformer nearby and we could drop a line to the mine there, which was a greenfield area. Yeah, no, we were taken to court and we were made to pay about $10 million.
You were taken to court by CEC?
Because we abrogated the territorial integrity of the bulk supply agreement. So when this particular agreement came to an end, we said we are not going into another relationship that has that exclusivity as a provision. We thought it should be open space. Now, it's not only for Zesco. If you decided to come up with a power supply company today, under the BSA, you wouldn't supply the copper belt. Because it's exclusive to CEC. So we thought, no, that was limiting. And I think it's good to open up the space so that any players coming onto the market to generate and transmit power, distribute power, would also benefit from, the copper belt, because that's a big mining area.
Yes.
And we know that that's where most of the clients would be. So we'd like to get a bit of the money from there. The other thing we did not agree with, for example, would have been the tariff structure. So we were proposing a slightly higher tariff, just like everybody else. When we increase and we make adjustments, we would like what they are paying for electricity to be commercially acceptable to us, and would feel that we are getting a return on investment.
Okay.
Yeah, that was another point of disagreement that we didn't agree on, and we hope that at some point we can sit down and agree. So that is exactly what was happening with
now,
this
back to the BSA.
Yes.
You spoke that recently you were trying to amend it. Why wasn't it amended way earlier?
It was the law. It's like you have a contract. The reason you have bulk supply agreements is to ensure consistency and stability in the provision of supply to a critical sector like the mining sector. So part of the arrangements when you enter into bulk supply agreements is that you would want this critical sector of your industry to have power all the time. You cannot afford not to have power.
Okay.
And these contracts are entered into in order to allow this foreign direct investment or even local investment, but which is long term. You cannot have 2-year contracts to get power to a critical industry, then investment is compromised. People don't feel secure because they think, look, we don't get this ingredient on a regular basis, and the contract that you have is only 2 years. If it expires and you disagree, it may affect our investment. So these were long-term investments. And the feeling now is that probably we should have thought better. Maybe we could have done 10 years, 5 years or 8 years or something like that. 23 years is a long time. Anything can go wrong in 23 years. Anything can go wrong in 20 years.
Indeed.
So exactly that is our argument. And we are saying, in the meantime, before we agree on a long-term agreement, CEC, please, let us agree on a short term so that we can iron out some of the challenges that we have. And they were asking for 16 years.
Okay, so is that why this statutory instrument was actually issued?
No, the statutory instrument, I'm not privy to. If the government, we should be able to speak much more eloquently to those issues. But the statutory instrument, I think just referring to number 57, which declares infrastructure as a common carrier.
Indeed,
And it's not just CEC infrastructure. That means also Zesco infrastructure. So if you want to import power from South Africa, you can use Zesco infrastructure to transmit your power to a client that you have anywhere. The market is open. You know, the law in the energy sector is now so favorable that you can start a company to generate, transmit, and distribute power. And Zesco need not be the main off-taker of power. Anyone else you can identify, Mamba Collieries can sell power to an industry, to a person, to residential clients. The law has provided. So, for example, if you find cheap power in Malawi, you should be able to buy that power, use Zesco infrastructure at a fee, and distribute it to your client. That's what's happening to CEC infrastructure. It is not government infrastructure. That still belongs to CEC. Or what government is saying is this infrastructure, which belongs to you, cannot be restrictive. You cannot have this monopolistic approach to it. So anyone can use your infrastructure at an agreed fee, and government does not set the charge. The wheeling charge is not set by government.
Okay.
In a dispute, like where we are with CEC, Energy Regulation Board said, okay, 1 cent, right, per kilowatt hour, whatever, that's what's going to be the charge. But that's not final until we agree amongst ourselves between CEC and Zesco. Once we agree on what the charge is going to be, it was going to be retrospective, beginning 1st of June. So it is not that we are using that infrastructure for free. No, it is at a cost because that infrastructure belongs to CEC. And what we are asking CEC is that whatever charge you are going to impose on us for using your infrastructure is the same charge we are going to apply on you if you choose to use our infrastructure to import power from South Africa or anywhere else.
Interesting.
And some people are finding that unacceptable. Why should Zesco be the one to sacrifice and get a loss for someone else? Zesco is also a Zambian company.
So you're saying Zesco stands to lose in this equation at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. Under the current under the BSA, before it expired, Zesco was losing out. Losing out on opportunities to invest.
How much has been lost so far?
We're looking in excess of about 200 million US dollars. But we are looking at losing in terms of, if we had taken on the opportunities that were available, this is how much we would have gained, right? Why should we be charged $10 million for having a contract with a mining firm just because of the law that we had set in place? So we are saying without that exclusivity, we may be able to forge relationships with companies on the copper belt, including mining companies. We buy power from the independent power producers at high rates and sell it to you as a residential client at a subsidized rate. For example, we are buying power at 11 cents in some cases and selling it at 3, 4 cents, 5, if it goes up maybe 6 in some cases. So it doesn't make business sense. And all Zesco is saying, yes, we are a parastatal, but people are crying that Zesco must become a commercial and competitive utility.
Can it be that?
It can be that, and it must, all the conditions that avail to competitive companies must avail to Zesco. So there is this feeling that Zesco must suffer losses whilst others benefit on its back. That is not going to play. And we are saying we'd like to make this company profitable, lucrative for the Zambians. CEC is a Zambian company with so many investments, so many workers, and we respect that, and we don't want to kill CEC because their livelihoods are sick. By the way, CEC was buying power from Zesco. They don't generate power.
No, they do not.
Yeah.
Zesco generates and
we
transmits.
generate, we transmit over 600 to 700 kilometers. That's how we transmit. They have about 30 to 40 kilometers, depending on the point of entry onto the copper belt. So the huge burden is on Zesco, right? And we've provided that power for 23 years consistently, day and night, without defaulting. Whilst you are enduring load shedding, they were not enduring load shedding. So what we are talking about, this relationship or this discussion, is a purely commercial discussion. And we should continue having this commercial discussion. We must continue this negotiation so that we have a win-win situation, because Zesco is a Zambian company, CEC is a Zambian company. But none of the two should decide to suffocate the other.
Should that happen, what are the implications? What should we expect? What implications do we expect to see?
In terms of...
if this relationship doesn't work out at the
end. It has to work out. We don't have a choice. Both of us have to work this relationship out because it is mutually beneficial. Yeah. And CEC has an obligation probably to rework their business model, because they're still supplying other mining companies on the copper belt. So they will need to buy power from us. If they feel they don't need to buy power from us and they can buy from across the borders, they are welcome to use our infrastructure. So they need us as much as we need them for the infrastructure that we can use to wheel power to the copper belt. They gave us the residential customers. People on the copper belt should know that they belonged to CEC initially, but they were dumped and given to Zesco.
How long has CEC had these residential?
I mean, from the beginning, I don't know, in the 2008 or thereabout, they decided this wasn't working for their business model, and I don't think they didn't factor it in very well within their business, and they renegotiated and gave back those customers to Zesco. And the Zesco then gets the power, buys it, and transmits it to the residential clients at a very low tariff.
Very low tariff.
That's what we've been talking about, and people will say, yeah, but it's your problem that you've had this low tariff. Yeah, that we are saying now we have a tariff that has been approved by the ERB. We would like to sell you the power based on the following factors. So let's sit on the table. If you don't agree with this, give us your counter proposal until we strike a balance and agree on something that is mutually beneficial. I'll give you another example. On the wheeling charge, Zesco does not impose the wheeling charge on CEC.
Who does?
The two of us need to agree.
Okay.
Once we don't agree, there's a dispute, then the regulator comes in and says, okay, for now, this is what you're going to pay.
That is ERB's job.
ERB's job, yeah, and they give you that. Once we fail, once we continue our discussions and agree, for example, if ERB sets 1 cent, and then in our continued negotiation, we say, okay, let's agree for 1.2. Then that 1.2 becomes binding from the time we started the relationship of wheeling power. So I don't see where the major problem is here, because we just need to be level-headed on both sides and come together and forge a relationship that makes sense. Why do you want to maintain exclusivity in today's environment? Why?
Are we going to need a mediator at the end of the day for this? When clearly Zesco and CEC seem capable of coming together and discussing.
Definitely capable, and I don't see where the problem is, my brother. Why is the problem? Because we are saying we want also to have a stake on the copper belt. You've had this stake for the last 23 years. Would like to get a share of the new markets, even the existing markets, if so wish, we can compete favorably, because there are competition rules in place. You can't have monopoly, and people say Zesco has a monopoly. We've opened up. Come and compete with us. Use our infrastructure. We use your infrastructure, and let's do this and come up with a win-win situation. That is all we are talking about. And we are saying, yes, you've had this tariff from the beginning, but we are proposing this tariff now, and you can appeal. There's the ERB here to oversee what we are negotiating. So we are proposing this tariff because it makes business sense to us. You tell us your counter proposal, but your counter proposal should not suffocate me. It's your tomatoes. You produce the tomatoes and you're selling them to me. I shouldn't be the one dictating the price.
No, it's not.
You tell me, but I can negotiate, right?
Yes.
But I should only negotiate to such an extent that you're also agreeable. And once you agree, then let's move on, shake hands, move on, and continue serving the people of this country.
Interesting. Now, service provision,
Yes.
competition. So you said it's been a monopoly on the copper belt.
Yes.
And what you want
That is a fact. Open it up.
An open table.
Absolutely.
So what does
Open
it spell
space.
out for other suppliers of electricity apart from CEC?
It works well for everybody apart from CEC and Zesco. Other players can come on board and contribute to this industry. You can invest in power generation, but very few people are currently being attracted to power generation, transmission, and distribution. You know why?
Why
the
is
tariff is low. The current tariff is not attractive for business. That's why there is no rush by private investors to come in and invest, because the tariff that we pay compared to the cost of production or the cost of service doesn't tally. The numbers don't tally.
So you need to match the tallies so far.
We need to. I mean, that's why this raising of the tariff as of January, trying to move towards a cost-reflective tariff. That's the ideal, right? It's not just for Zesco. It's for any business to thrive. The return on investment must make sense. If the return on investment is not making sense, why would you invest in a particular field? Why would you start growing maize if you know you're going to be making
Then
a
it's
loss?
not worth it. But
It's
also,
not worth it.
Yeah, but
we
also-
are providing a service to over 1 million clients in Zambia. Just on Thursday, we are going to have a customer day in Ruangwa and in Rufunsa, and Ruangwa is also connected to the national grid. Do you know how much it has cost us to go into, for example, Ruangwa? And then the kind of clientele that we have there, it's not a farming block. You know, the return on investment will be over long years to come. It's not immediate return on investment. So what we are saying is that we are performing this economic activity, but which is also tinged with a very strong social good. That's what we are doing. In Lusaka, here we have 250 million US dollar worth of investment on the transmission lines. That's a project that is fully funded, and that investment is not recoverable so easily from the tariff that we have. That's why I've been saying cost-reflective tariffs.
What makes the copper belt so special to
The mines. The mines. Yeah, we can negotiate a good tariff with the mines.
But you have
And
northwestern provinces.
yes, we do supply some of the mines of Mapani on the northwestern province. Yes, we do. Yeah, and they are open for anybody. So why should they be a domain or a turf just for one company? Zesco is saying, no, let's open up the space, not just for Zesco, but for any player who's willing to invest in Zambia. They must have the benefit, right, of having a client in any part of the country without territorial exclusion.
That is what you want.
That is what we want. Let's compete.
And do you think CEC
Level
will
playing
be
field.
agreeable to this?
They have to. You know, they have a lot more to benefit. They are growing their company. They need our infrastructure. They need to work with us. So they can import power anywhere. They don't have infrastructure on the southern part of the country. Neither do they have in the eastern part. So they can import power from Tanzania, they can import power from Malawi, from South Africa, from Angola, using our infrastructure or the infrastructure of other independent power producers. We are not inimical to CEC expanding. What we are saying is that we are not selling you at the same price that you've enjoyed for 20 years. Neither are we agreeing to exclusivity.
We're changing.
This marriage has to be renegotiated.
Interesting.
Intimate partner violence must disappear.
Indeed. So we're talking New Kaloa in this marriage of CEC and Zesco. Dr. Kunda, I wish I could hold you for much longer, but
Always
thank
a
you for gracing us today.
Always a pleasure.
Closing remark, 30 seconds.
Let's continue working together. You know, I think let's love this country a bit more and support most of the initiatives that are ongoing. The law on common carrier, it's like in the telecoms industry. It's not new. If you have a tower and it belongs to Airtel, Zamtel can't come and build a tower next to it. Neither will MTN come and build a tower next to it. You are compelled to use the one tower and pay some rent to the owner of the tower. That way, it's easier. In other countries, it's rail lines, pipelines. They are declared common carriers, but they belong to the people who've invested in them. So let's work together. Let's be a bit more patriotic and do the right thing for the country. Much more. Country first.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you for gracing us today.
The pleasure is mine.
Indeed.
Thank you for having Zesco again.
Definitely. But it's definitely is not the last time we're hosting Zesco on Business Outlook.
Thank you.
Viewers, that's what we had for you on Business Outlook. Be sure to join us at tomorrow, same time, same place. And we have reached out to CEC. We hope they do respond in good time.
It'll be nice.
But definitely, it will be nice that we host them and they actually give their side of the story.
Fantastic.
Zesco has told their side of the story today, and we've heard the cry, and we hope they've heard their cry as well, but would like to hear the other side of the story, and your views are welcome as well. Simply follow us on Facebook and YouTube. Simply go to CBC Television Zambia. You can actually catch this recording on both platforms, and simply go to those pages and get in touch with us. But don't forget to communicate with Zesco on issues or matters that affect you. And don't forget, CBC Television is always here to inspire transformation, and also just make sure you're influenced positively. But don't forget to wear a face mask every time you go out in public. Wash your hands with running water and soap, and use hand sanitizer. I'm Jimmy KANASHA. Till next time, it's goodbye.
Introducing the My DSTV app.